sometimes a politician would say something which I didn't expect them to say, or rather, from time to time, I get surprised by the way a politician explains something, the language that they use. So, Sergey Lavrov, he's a spokesperson for the Russian government. He said something the other day, which I thought to myself, I must read the rest of this. I must read the rest of this article. And Lavrov said that Ukraine was corrupt and that people are stealing money in the government as if it was going to never go out of fashion. He then remarked on the fact that the Western European nations are conscious of the fact, but are choosing to let it slide. He said it was like Western Europe was an eyes wide shut party. Now, let me just quickly explain what an eyes wide shut party is. It's normally held by the uber rich when they have a social gathering at one of their homes. And what goes on after 9 o'clock at night, nobody sees, even though it is happening right
Yeah.
in front of them. So it's normally some sort of debauchery, wife swapping, although not exclusively, and things like that. So it was interesting that Lavrov used that term because it's a very American term. It's not something you'd expect from Eastern Europe. And that tickled me. The fact that
Yeah.
he'd say this, you know. But the more serious point is that the West can see the corruption in Ukraine, but choose to do nothing about it. I mean, it even exasperated Hunter Biden, son of former US President Joe Biden.
Mm.
Now, you know that when Hunter Biden is concerned about the level in Ukraine, it must be it must be pretty bad. And Zelensky is still sending out the letters demanding, not even requesting anymore, demanding more money to be sent to Ukraine. And the last I heard, the West still seems happy to oblige. They are. It's just that short and sweet.
Right. Okay. Um,
Ukraine is corrupt, the West knows, but the West is supplying the habit.
uh, like you say, it's the eyes wide shut scenario. Yes, I know there's a film some years ago detailing exactly what you're saying about, but yeah, yeah, actually, normally I like that director's works, but yeah, it's a, um, I mean, saying that Ukraine is corrupt is not a revelation.
What's not?
Uh, I mean, actually, Lavrov is actually quite a switched on guy. I've seen a few interviews with him, and I
I,
thought
I like him.
he talking about parties. He's a guy you'd want to your party because I think he'd be quite the life and soul of it. Yeah, the way he speaks, like you say, he switched on. He knows about American. He understands different cultures. Um, and the way he talks. I've seen interviews with him. I remember, was it him who did the famous one about the famous locker room video uh, with uh, President Trump in it. Now President Trump when he was running, yeah, about the grabbing,
Oh, right, right.
yeah, and he says, and yeah, and the interviewer, and it was Anna Kapoor, I can't remember her name. Yeah, well, I think she worked for different things. Quite well respected. Okay, a bit left, but a bit well respected journalist. And she said, "What do you make of that?" He says, "I don't know about really that." And he said, "I think there's a lot of pussies on all sides in American politics." Um, but uh, she just couldn't stop laughing. Yeah, I like the guy. He's been tipped as a successor to um,
Shooting.
Putin. I don't know if they're the same age. I can't remember now. I think he's a little bit younger. Um, I don't see that myself. I think he's the guy who's better off in the engine room, yeah, doing the bits he does, and yeah, I think he's too sensible to go for the top job. Um, yeah, I mean, Um, he's not wrong. The trouble is, everything he says is difficult to deny. Um, as much as I, from being from Western Europe, would like to say, "Oh, this really bad Russian person is saying this," I neither think he's really a bad guy in the scheme of things, and he's not wrong. Um, and um, yeah, okay, we can all say about Russia being a gangster state, the way that the Russian society works. You're an oligarch as long as the president agrees to you being an oligarch. Okay, we know that. That's how Russia has operated more or less since the Viking times, if not, yeah. So, you know, you're not going to suddenly change society. And that's possibly what holds Russia together. I'm not saying I'm condoning it. I'm saying, yeah, I'm a pragmatist. Um, Eastern Europe is corrupt. Ukraine was probably, and let's be honest about it, we know a little bit about corruption because of the region we live in. I think Ukraine was above where we are.
Of course.
Yeah. And like you say, the beast has been fed all the time, or even before pre 2014. Um, Again, it's people getting involved in areas they do not know or understand. And I'm talking about the Americans here. The Americans, or many in the American administration over the past 30 years, haven't really understood European, especially Eastern European culture and thinking, in my opinion. Yeah. Um, we've always criticized Americans' involvement in the world. And I think that was partly justified because they do not understand us. They think that it was always known as the long arm of American influence. Um, Influence being, yeah, you will operate like this. Um, and yes, they were given money or resources for regime change pre 2014. This is all documented. It's not me just making it up. Before then, the BBC were even pumping out content, i.e., packages on news items such as Newsnight or News, whatever, all about the corruption in Ukraine.
Yeah, of course.
Suddenly, that all disappeared. Oh, Ukraine's a put upon country. Well, they already had the channels of corruption set up, the mechanisms, and we know all about them here. I'm not saying too much, but we do know about them. Well, there's been Netflix drama series about it called The Mechanism. The Mechanism. If you want to see how corruption really works in any of these countries, watch a Netflix program called The Mechanism, based in Brazil, but pretty much a good example of how it all works. Any corrupt place in the world. And yeah, I'm going to focus on this. He is dead right about our euros, our pounds, or any other currency or the dollars that goes being pumped into Ukraine. As I said before, with the resources and the money that has been put directly into Ukraine, why are Russia still there? Russia should be driven back to the border. I would almost hazard to say is we've probably we could have probably the Ukrainians with the amount of probably money and weapons they've been given could actually start pushing and taking a big sliver across the territory of Russia, created their own buffer zone. I'm not saying I want that to happen, but you know what I'm saying.
The politician who's getting found out about another scandal, another corruption scandal linked to energy. And two generals have been sacked by Zelensky because they were filing false reports about the front line, saying they were being successful. And this isn't me saying it. Yeah. This is in the Pravda, and it isn't in the Russian Pravda. This is in the Ukrainian Pravda, newspaper, saying they were giving false
false information. Yeah, false report. Yeah. falsifying information.
To make it look like Ukrainian troops were actually winning.
Yeah, as I've always said to people, if you've got any project, the bad news is the most important news. And it's, I mean, I look at it all in disbelief. I mean, it may be that I'm misjudging Zelensky. Maybe he's quite a decent guy. I mean, given his background, he was an entertainer, he was a comedian. I don't know the intelligence of the guy. I, I, I've, I've yet to see a convincing interview with him that would instill any sort of confidence in me to run anything. I'm not suggesting that he's anything but a decent guy. He's probably in the wrong place. I don't know. I think he's well aware that come the end of the war, his future is probably in question. And
Something interesting.
yeah,
He said that Ukraine doesn't have enough money to hold a general election, right?
mm,
And so we can't hold an election because Ukraine doesn't have any money. But in the next breath, he says that he's going to have to make a referendum about the peace proposals that are on. So he's not got any money for one to let him cling on to power.
mm,
Yet he's got money to do the other, which is basically the same thing.
yeah,
Why,
yeah.
why you can't do the same two things together at the same time, I don't know. Just add something onto the bottom of the ballot.
Well, or have the general election as a as an expression whether you agree or not agree with it. Okay, there's probably constitutional reasons why you can't do that, but yeah, I mean, eventually, yes, there's going to have to be an election in Ukraine, but I do believe the Western leaders, the one thing they don't want at the moment is Zelensky losing an election as well, which is possibly very much on the cards. Who would win? The Ukrainian people themselves have had enough of war, as any of us would. When you look at the makeup of Ukraine, yes, probably the Donbass stroke Crimea regions are predominantly Russian speaking. I'm not saying necessarily Russians, but people that identify more as Russian than Ukrainian.
Yeah, Russian culture.
Yeah.
It's predominant in the Donbass region, in Donetsk and
Yeah.
Lugansk.
Yeah.
Those two regions, they declared themselves independent from Ukraine.
Yeah.
They were, before Putin went in to
Yeah.
this Donbass area, he recognized both of them as independent states.
Yeah.
He had to do that so that he could go into them because they asked him to help them out.
Yeah.
You know, so he went into them without it. He had to recognize them as being a state so that it doesn't it can't be reported that he invaded.
Yeah.
Because
okay. Yeah. Well,
and the Crimea, I think they had a plebiscite.
Yeah.
If they wanted to be Ukrainian or not.
Well, they want to be semi-autonomous. Yeah. I mean, it is. It's always been a troubled region. I'm not saying it's old news. It's not. When you look at the history, I mean, I've got a few pages in one of the books behind me. I've read all about it. I'm not going to go into it now. But yeah, poor Ukrainians can't catch a break. The minute they get an independence of their own country, something always happens. But the Russians have always example times of trouble as well. Admittedly, this is why they're suspicious of the West. They've got good memories when it comes to history. Maybe a bit selective sometimes, but yes. Notice I try and walk the middle path here with everything. Yes. I like my fence. I like to sit on it. Faults on both sides. Yeah. But yes, I do believe that now is the time for talking. We've got to sort out the problems we've got. I'm speaking as a European now, not as a member of the EU. I'd hate the EU. I hate the European Union. I've never said anything else but that. Hate is a strong word, I know, but I do hate the concept of it. But as Europeans, we have got to sort out the problems that have been left in Eastern Europe. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is to sit around a table and talk to Russia. And I would suggest make it a bit of a more broader discussion or conference than just about Ukraine, about our future interactions with Russia moving forward. How we can both be good for each other, how Western Europe can be good for Russia, where Russia sits with.
It already is. I mean,
Yeah.
Russia exported most of its gas to Europe,
Yeah,
and the to and froing for people, Russia opened up,
yeah,
and you just bought your visa on the border.